Hey YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. As you can see, I'm sort of in the middle of surveying the boundaries of Saturday's burn, which I spent all day Sunday putting water on. As of last night when I quit, I'd put 990 litres on, and I haven't actually finished surveying today's burn yet, but I thought I'd show you an interesting effect which seems to be a result of this particular patch of country, which used to look like that before I burnt it, with lots of these old trees, many of them showing scars from previous burn. Last burn to go through that tree or under that tree was in 1958. So we've got this really dense leaf pack on the ground, and even when you come down to have a look at what passes for mineral earth, that's actually finely crumbled leaf litter, and it will burn. Haha! Gee, I'm glad I came up here with some water. This, and that's not a setup either, this is actually, I was going to show you this, which as you can see is a hollow rotten tree stump which was underground, and I thought I'd show you the amount of steam which will come up when I pour water on the ground. But this is what I'm trying to guard against, the idea that burning bits of dry dead wood will come back up, and we've got a fair bit of wind, and light up. Now that leaf pack is lit up from underground, and it's probably, there we go, more steam coming out of there. That'll be a tree root that's been burning underground, coming all the way, whoops, the burnt ground's fairly soft and crumbly. I actually stepped down into it there, didn't mean to either. Yeah, I still need more water there. So that was 1,000 litres, we'll now go for 1,010. And to show you what I mean, this probe is about 1 foot long. I've been using it to anchor the measuring tape. Surprising how far down into the ground the burn has created a void. Look at that, straight down, zero resistance. Nothing but hot ash. So if it wasn't for the synchronicity and the serendipity and the coincidence which caused me to be obsessive enough to want to be bothered with mapping the burn, I could have sat down on my arse recovering from having a sore foot from carrying a tonne of water 15 metres uphill over about 120 metres, and this would have got going again with quite a respectable bit of wind. And yes, if, oh look, there's some more. Might have to put paid to mapping for a while and get into stopping the underground embers from setting fire to my fence line and my neighbour's place, and stop me from getting the bill for the firefighting effort, whatever it takes to put the thing out. So, bloody persistent, isn't it? I guess I will have to, like I said, start carrying water up the hill again. Now the thing about this is that this particular patch has not burnt, or had not burnt, since 1958. I just wasn't game to burn it back in 1994 to 2000 when I was into doing a fair bit of burning off. But if you compare the patch out there, where we've got all these dry tree roots burning down into the bush, into the ground, literally the ground is going catching fire. I think I only had about 2 similar events where I had to actually dig into the ground and worry about leaf masses trying to burn on this patch. And the difference between that and this is that this was the first fire for 56 years here, whereas it was only the first fire for 16 years there. It was a much cooler and more contained burn. You didn't get the ground catching fire. So it seems that somewhere around the 40-year mark, this kind of country really does need to be burned. If you can burn it on the 40-year mark or by the 40-year mark, you wind up with a much more controlled event. This country here, it's places where I have whippersnipped. And even when you start off burning, there's a lot of green. You get much more of a mosaic burn effect. And more importantly, even trees that was burnt, I don't know whether I did that burn or whether that's a relic of the 58 burn. And talking of relics of the 58 burn, last week I had a visit from my brother, big brother, much older than me, lives in Melbourne. He showed up with his mate and both of their wives, and he just sort of, when I mentioned I'd been doing some burning up here, he told me that when he was a kid he often used to come up here with our grandfather, who was a blacksmith and coach builder, and he'd be coming up here getting charcoal for the forge. And it had never occurred to me that my grandfather had to go somewhere to get charcoal, and it turns out that he came more or less up to this country, which is, you know, sort of second big coincidence, because my father used to come up here not only for firewood but also looking for the flat, easy to build paving pathways and fences and walls and all sorts of stuff, these flagstones. And he'd never tell anybody where he used to come to get it. But my suspicion is my father was coming up here for the flagstones and the firewood, because he'd probably been coming up here with his father looking for charcoal, just like my big brother was coming up here with our grandfather looking for charcoal. And now here I am living on the place trying to burn it cool enough to make charcoal. Something about living on the one landscape generation after generation. You can find yourself fitting in ways that you didn't design, it just happens. Here I am walking around country that my grandfather was traipsing over 100 years ago. And now I better go and put out the bloody fire over it. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.